Hello and welcome back to ABG Investor Day. My name is Adrian Gilani and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG within the cap goods sector. Up next, we are joined by Arni Ekholm, CEO at Relais Group, who will give a 20-minute presentation about Relais Group, and after that, we will have time for a short Q&A session. So I will leave it up to you now, Arni.
Thanks, Adrian, and nice to have been given the possibility to present Relais Group company presentation today. So my name is Arni Ekholm, and we can move to the next slide, please. I've been working as a CEO for Relais Group now for about 6 years, and before that I've been working in various global branded goods companies like Gillette and Duracell and Olympus. Lived in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Germany, and I'm a native Finn and based in Helsinki here. It's very cold now, by the way, about minus 20 degrees, which is good for our type of business, as I will explain later. So, next slide, please. The contents of the presentation, I will talk more about our market, where do we compete, where we aim to win, which is the vehicle aftermarket. Then I will describe the Relais value creation and operating model. How do we operate? How do we maybe differ from other type of companies in this business? What does our group consist of? What kind of group companies? Very short summary of what kind of group companies we have. Then a few words about our strategy and long-term target, which we have revised here for not more than 6 months ago. And then a very short summary of the key financial for January, September, which are the latest official numbers I can relate to, and then a short summary in the end. Next, please. So, what is Relais Group? I bet for many in the audience, and thanks for following this presentation, I think we are fairly unknown. We were listed in the First North Growth Market list here in Helsinki in October 2019. And still, I bet there are a lot of investors out there who don't know who we are, and I'm very happy to be able to explain that more in detail today. So how we regard ourselves is that we are a leading Nordic consolidator who has a sector focus in vehicle and mobility aftermarket and related services. And I will walk you through how we consider what does the sector focus mean and why is it important for us and also for you as from an investor point of view. We also serve as a growth platform for the companies that belong to our group, and that is clearly one focal part in our strategy is to make the growth quicker for these companies that we acquire. The latest official numbers, of course, we are growing a lot. So you can see 79.3% was the growth versus 20 to 21, ending up in 164 million roughly in net sales, and the EBITDA reported for January, September was 20.5, also there a hefty growth. So we are a company that is growing very rapidly, partly organically, but also mostly by acquisition. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. So this is the aftermarket. This is kind of in a way, a summary of how we consider the aftermarket to look like. And what is aftermarket? It's basically everything that happens to the vehicle after it has been produced and then sold further to the user or the distributor or reseller. There are about 19 million different types of vehicles on the Nordic and Baltic roads, and that is the kind of ultimate target market. Every vehicle is a platform for revenue for us, if you will. So, I mean, there is different types of what we call for life cycle enhancement actions going on for the vehicle. So if you think about the life cycle of the vehicle from when it's imported to the country, and then at the end of its life cycle is demolished and recycled, there's a lot happening there. The vehicle is equipped with certain types of electrical or lighting equipment that we sell. If you take a forest machine or a truck or a light commercial vehicle or passenger car, usually they will need some kind of adaptation or customization before they are taken into use, whether it then be as I was mentioning, the lighting systems that the professional vehicles need a lot. There's, as we all know, it's a lot of darkness in the Nordic countries, starting from August all the way up to maybe April, and you need good and secure lighting for your vehicle to work. It might be also power management systems. The vehicle needs spare parts, it's maintained, it's serviced, and also then depending on the size and let's say the use of the vehicle, the usage of spare parts and equipment varies. But all in all, this is a very stable market and steadily growing market in the Nordic region. Our focus area is what we call the life cycle enhancement. So we do not sell vehicles, not used or new ones. So we do not participate in the demolition of vehicles, but we operate in basically all these sectors within the life cycle enhancement listed here, not always by our own group companies, but through partners. So we are very a focal player enabling all these kind of services for this sector. An interesting point to lift up here is that roughly 2/3 of our business consists of products or services directed to commercial vehicles, and that is important to bear in mind because the passenger car and the commercial vehicle evolution, they don't go hand in hand in that respect. Next slide, please. We let's say before last summer decided to have a little bit broader look, and we are still doing some strategy work around what is aftermarket, what kind of markets and subcategories are there within the aftermarket, because that is important for us being a buy and build company, as I will explain later, that we target certain sectors in the aftermarket where we know there's profitability. So we are not shooting with a shotgun. We try to aim very sharply and pinpoint and find suitable companies to acquire that would then create synergy possibilities to us. We are not expanding wildly from our core, which is, let's say, equipment and spare parts and services and related kind of business, but we are looking at other types of businesses within the aftermarket without going too much into details yet. But I consider it a little bit far-fetched that we would go into leasing functions or financing or insurance, but for sure we will look at collision damage and why not tires and that kind of stuff, and also maybe car wash, car care related services, especially for the commercial vehicles moving forward. Next, please. What are the main market drivers and how do they affect and support our growth? As I stated a couple of slides earlier, this is a stably growing market, steadily growing market in all the Nordic and Baltic countries. The vehicle park is growing. There are some factors that play into this, looking from, let's say, depending on which angle you take. If you take the spare part angle, then of course it's good that there are vehicles to be maintained that are also older vehicles. But when it comes to equipment, which is very important to us, the lighting and power management, as I mentioned, there also the sales of new vehicles is very important, because primarily the commercial vehicles that are being equipped are the new vehicles imported into the country, and then they are delivered to the end user. The need, as we have seen during the COVID-19 period, still ongoing, is that there is a need to transport goods and people. Of course, let's say the commuting by public transport has been going down slightly, but the driven kilometers, we haven't seen a huge change. We haven't seen a negative change in the need for spare parts and maintenance. Rather, actually the opposite when it comes to the so-called last mile deliveries. For e-commerce is really booming at the moment, and there are different kind of companies and fleets offering services for the last mile deliveries, and those engines and cars, they need service and also equipment. So that is an ever-growing business for us. Other types of trends, the technical trends, the evolution of the powertrain, we are all aware of the trend regarding the electrification of the vehicle, and also some political decisions that are accelerating that development, and it's a development that we welcome. I mean, it's a very small percentage of our sales that is actually going directly to the internal combustion engine based spare parts for passenger vehicles. And on the commercial vehicle side, the evolution is anyway going to be slightly different. Just as an anecdote, I took a listing of the spare parts that we already have for full electrical vehicles, such as a Tesla S model, and I immediately could identify spare parts and equipment worth of about 4,000 euros, as it is already now. I mean, if you take air conditioning, compressors, and heating and cooling, blowing motors and suspension and some body parts, there's a lot. Another thing is that the components are getting more complicated moving forward, even for the let's say, traditional ICE related engines and cars. There's more electricity in the components, and the unit price of the components is getting higher also moving forward. So the value of the market is going up. There's a lot of data being transferred between the vehicles and let's say the cloud, and that is something that of course we are following very keenly. What kind of earning logic is there for independent players in the future, which we see very exciting possibilities for. Next slide, please. We took a little look on the market last summer. As I said, we did some strategy work and had just a very rough estimate of, if we look at the Swedish market, aftermarket for vehicles, and count together the turnover of different companies, there it's about 17 billion euro across 16,000 companies and 57,000 employees. Of course, there's a lot of different types of service, but this gives you a flair of what type of market size are we looking at and talking about. And if you then assess the rest of the Nordic being roughly 2.5 times Sweden, so we're talking about anywhere between, I would say, 30 to 40 billion euro size market. So it's really, really interesting, and also there's a lot of space for further consolidation. I already mentioned the electrical vehicle penetration that we consider as a potential extension of the market, and really exciting. Circular economy, car sharing, technological development, connected car, who is making the decision of the purchase in the future. I mean, all types of things, centralized fleets that we are following, and of course adapt our own strategy after that. Next slide, please. Right, so let's have a look at our value creation model, and you could call this as a kind of a classical buy and build model, but with a flair and twist when it comes to the sector focus. So we are not sector agnostics as many compounders or consolidators are. We are focusing on the vehicle aftermarket sector. Why is that important? It is because we can then also bring something to the party for the companies that we acquire. We know the companies mostly already in advance, and we can analyze the synergies much better, and also make the mathematics around the acquisitions easier. We are very picky as buyers. We are trying to find and pinpoint companies that are already healthy. We are not that interested in turnaround cases, or rather I could say we are not at all interested in ongoing turnaround cases or future turnaround cases, but we have been looking, and we have actually made a couple of acquisitions of companies that have recently in a sustainable way implemented a turnaround process. And that, of course, for us, it's very important to see the path for the future, and it is already profitable and can create more value for the shareholders moving forward. And the sector focus enables exactly this acceleration and further development of the companies, as we can, as I said, with our knowledge of the business, support these companies much better than if we did not have this knowledge. What do we do when we build the businesses to great businesses? We professionalize the running of the acquired companies. We increase the focus on the execution and strategy. Quite often the companies are entrepreneur driven, and the entrepreneurs have made fantastic journey and developed the company to a certain level, but then usually themselves they realize that it's going to be really hard to take the next step, and hence we come into the picture and can help them to still stay on in many cases and contribute in the further development of the company, and also contribute to the whole growth. We are also, with the sector focus, we have the possibility to utilize synergy benefits between the companies as we operate in the same business. So we can do cross-selling and combine our purchase volumes to get better prices. And then also this is a positive cycle that strengthens itself with add-on acquisitions. Then maybe from a capital market point of view, there is a multiple expansion approach as well here, which is fairly interesting from a shareholder and investor point of view. We also consider the aftermarket sector to be wide enough to enable de-risking, so we don't have all the eggs in one basket, even if we are focusing in the sector of the aftermarket. Next slide, please. This is just to recap very shortly of the journey that we have done so far, starting from 2010. So we have almost tenfold grown the company in a little bit more than 10 years. So I will not dwell too long on this one, but we have made about, let's say, five acquisitions this year and 3 to 4 a couple of years before that. So it's accelerating all the time as we speak. Next, please. The operating model from the organization point of view, I could describe as being an effective and decentralized operating model. So we do not have really a mantra that one size fits all and we centralize everything. Neither is it a total standalone structure. So it's more like a hybrid. Where it makes sense to centralize, we do it. Where it doesn't, we don't do it. And it's very important for us to maintain the local accountability and passion and ownership in the companies, not ownership from a let's say legal point of view always, but more like from a mental point of view to still go on and foster the baby that you have created locally. We give a lot of independence for the local companies, but we make sure the companies talk together. So there's a structure how we operate this with local boards on a country level and the business level, where all the executive management team members participate regularly. And it's not a kind of high horse, very formal type of board. It's more very operational issues, but still on a strategic level that we do there, and to make sure that the strategy is really implemented. We have some supportive functions that are at least hybrid centralized. I mean, we operate as one group when we negotiate prices for components and parts with global players. And there we can combine our total volume into one when we talk about annual contracts with these. Financing, product information management is something that we are working on. Cash pool arrangements, of course, we run centrally. And then as being a listed company, we are, of course, very keen and interested in to see how things are carried out in the country. So all kinds of regulatory issues are centralized, and data security, ESG, code of ethics, and so forth. Same policies around all the units. Next, please. Then executive management team, on top of myself, we have Pekka here in Helsinki, is our CFO. Then we have a geographical split between West and East. Juan is taking care of the Scandinavian business, and Ville is taking care of the Finnish and Baltic business, all three very experienced people. Really happy to have them on board. And then the latest professional team member, Lennart, who joined the company in the summer, and he's heading our acquisition functions and doing very successfully, and also in charge of the pipeline management, and then also in practice negotiating with the target companies. Next, please. Then one slide about our group companies. I've tried to group them into 4 bigger clusters. As I said, commercial vehicles are very important to us, and on the top you can see the companies running the spare part wholesale operations for the heavy sector or the commercial sector. Tehdä Tunga Delar, who sells, and Startax. So you can see Startax is in many clusters because it's a multi-business company in Finland. Then let's say the only purely passenger car focused company, partly also light commercial vehicles to be frank, is AB Reservdelar in Sweden, and then Startax also serves the passenger car sector in Finland. And Raskone we acquired January this year, or actually started February this year. STS, Sydhamnen's trailer service, became a member of the family 1st of November. Welcome to Stefan and your team. So we have now about 34 maintenance and repair outlets in Sweden and Finland, so making us the biggest independent repair and maintenance chain for heavy and light commercial vehicles in the independent sector. One business area that is very interesting and important also from an investor point of view is the lighting and power management and equipment, which mostly consists of our own brands and trademarks. And this is about 1/4 at least of our business is coming from the products with our own brands. And Strands is the latest family member, really rapidly growing, must be one of Europe's absolutely fastest growing vehicle lighting brands. Very innovative, very passionate. And then we have specialist companies, Avimex, SEC, and Startax, who kind of created the lighting business for Relais before Strands came into picture. A new business area for us, which is lighting/e-commerce, came when we acquired Lumise, who has a daughter company called DSM in Sweden. Very rapidly growing, innovative, gives us a lot of competence and knowledge about the e-commerce, and we have some ambitious plans of rollout of certain concepts even on a global level when it comes to vehicle lighting e-commerce. Next slide, please. Then strategy and long-term target, we revised slightly our strategy in May. I would maybe say recalibrated, so the fundamentals of our strategy didn't change. We just basically said that we will broaden the scope of the acquisition slightly to also contain other sectors in the vehicle aftermarket than just the, I would say in quotation marks, the traditional part of it. At the same time, we realized that the previous target that we had communicated in 2019, which was at that stage to double the turnover in 5 years, and our pro forma turnover was about 120 million. So we realized that we will reach this about 240 million much quicker than what we had said. So we wanted to raise the performance bar, and now we set the target of 500 million euros by the end of 2026. So what is our strategy based on? It's based on growing through acquisitions, as I mentioned. We want to be an active consolidator. We are an active consolidator in this market in the Nordic countries specifically. But we can also combine this with organic growth, which is, and we aim to grow quicker than the market in average. And how can we grow quicker than the market in average? Is mainly by, of course, being very sharp and innovative as always, but synergizing between the companies. So we have fantastic own lighting products that we then launched in Sweden for a couple of years ago. Now it's really starting to bear fruit, so to speak. So we can do a lot of cross sales between the countries and synergize and also utilize our stronger purchase power versus the component and spare part manufacturers. Then it's very important to focus on the customers. So we must be able to add value to our customers. Otherwise, there's no reason for our existence, to be frank. I mean, we must help our customers. How do we do that? We have innovative digital solutions where we can really guide our customers with what they need. We keep the stock in the market, and that is really important in this business to have the right part in the right time in the right place. So we have the network, and we have, if you will, boots on the ground here. And as an example, we have now, when there's this kind of local lack of components and delivery problems, we have deliberately increased our working capital, i.e. we have made sure that we have the goods that we can help our customers with. Next slide. Right, then probably I will not spend too much time on this. You can all see these published numbers on our website. Maybe I would just state that the growth has been very rapid. It's been very profitable all these years, and we have traditionally had a very good cash conversion ratio. So maybe I will not spend too much time on that. Everything is looking very, very encouraging, I have to say, and we have been happy to be able to present good numbers in September. For the first time ever, we started with a quarterly reporting because we felt that we want to be more informative towards our shareholders and investors, to not only twice a year but 4 times a year to come with financial data. Next slide, please. Right, and then as I mentioned, the cash conversion ratio has been high. Of course, something that is probably straining the cash conversion at the moment, or is that we are binding cash in the inventory, which is a good decision at these times, because we have also been able to foster our growth during this period. Next slide, please. Right, and then just recapping, I only have a couple of slides left, so bear with me. I already said the 500 million euro target that we have set ourselves, and the combination of M&A and organic growth. Dividend policy has not changed, is still the 30% that we are trying to achieve over business cycle, depending, of course, if there are, let's say, huge acquisition activities going on. So of course we have to always consider that also, but we aim to this level. Next slide, please. Then last slide, actually, just a summary before going to the Q&A. What is Relais, and how is Relais as an investment and a company? So we are active, we are consolidating the market, we are all the time looking for new great companies to become members in this family. We have a healthy, good pipeline of companies. We have a good track record of being able to onboard the companies very quickly to the group. Strong cash flow and profitability, giving us possibilities to continue the strong acquisition flow. This is a good growing market and has some defensive characteristics, as we have seen. We have a growing lighting business with own brands, and we aim to still make it grow faster and quicker. And then we have a global potential with in-house and e-commerce solutions. And basically, that's it. So, questions and answers.
Okay, thank you so much, Arni. Unfortunately, we have another presentation starting in just a few minutes, so we will have to save the questions for another time.
Okay. Sorry for taking more time.
I'll thank you again for your presentation, and I'll leave it up to you if you have any final remarks before we round off.
No, just thanking everybody for listening, and should you have some unanswered questions, you can also turn directly to me. My email address is on our website, so please be in touch with me or then Adrian. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.